Armand here with your forecast for the week of January 29th, 2023. You'll recognize right away that there must be a lot of February in this forecast. Indeed, we'll be going all the way out to Saturday, February 4th. So we're in the second month. We're getting into the second month of 2023. It's still a new year, but it's not brand new anymore. We're getting a feel for things. And this week calms the energy down. The celestial energy is calmer. I don't know how we're going to deal with it, but the celestial energy is calmer. We had some very tumultuous aspects in the last half of really all the way through January. We had Mars stationing direct on the 12th. We had Mercury retrograde. What a Mercury retrograde. Ended on the 18th. Last weekend, of course, Uranus stationed to go direct. So now all the planets are moving direct, right? So we have this sort of forward moving energy from all the planets. Plus, the moon is waxing this week. So we're waxing up towards the Leo full moon. That ought to be great. And so there's this real kind of positive, powerful energy that is going on in this week. We do have more Uranus aspects. We've had a lot of Uranus aspects lately, but this time we have, just as we begin the week on Sunday, we have Mercury trine to Uranus. Now, if you had a brilliant idea sometime last week, I had a couple of good ideas last week, right around the Uranus station, last Sunday, Monday. I had a couple of good ideas. I didn't know what to do with them. They're sort of sitting in my little notebook saying, hey, this is what I'm thinking. And now what are we going to do with this? It's got to be an article someplace or something like that. Well, I'm hoping and I'm expecting that this weekend, as we have the Mercury trine Uranus, we can start to ground some of these ideas. Of course, Mercury is in the very grounded, earthy sign of Capricorn, and Uranus is in the very grounded, earthy sign of Taurus. So some real practical ideas ought to be, in the cards. Speaking of cards, don't forget Adam Bernstein's tarot forecast on the Medium channel. Plus, there's lots of other good things that he has on that channel. I'll talk about other good things on this channel at the end, because I want to talk about the forecast first. So we begin the week with this Uranus Mercury aspect that should help us to ground ideas. Very good for practical stuff too on Sunday if you're just getting started with things. Now, the moon is in Taurus. I mean, we really could not have much more in the way of this earthy good energy. If it was a couple of months from now, I'd say it'd be a great time to do some planting. It might be a good time to do some home projects or things like that. Okay, so that's how we begin the week. Now, as we go a little bit further along, the moon waxes away from all the other planets, goes through the sign of Gemini, passes Mars, who's really sort of just starting to move forward himself, gets into the sign of Cancer. This is a little bit more protective energy at midweek, and then goes into Leo when we get ready for the Leo full moon. The Leo full moon, which is technically next Sunday, but we'll really be catching that energy all weekend long. Leo full moon is a fun full moon. All right, this is a fun full moon. It's the party moon of the year. It's it's in the playful, romantic sign of Leo. Make the most of it. Whatever that means for you. The important thing is that the moon is in Leo all day Saturday, then on to Sunday. Now, does that mean Friday night's not going to be fun? No, we have the moon in Cancer, protective Cancer, opposing Pluto. Well, I don't know if that's like a real laugh riot kind of energy or anything like that, but it doesn't necessarily have to be unpleasant. I would think that it might indicate that, Thursday, Friday is more like stay-at-home times, and then Saturday is a little bit more of the adventurous, get-out kind of energy. So I would say, in general, Saturday night is the better night of this coming weekend. Now, in between, of course, the moon is waxing, all the planets are direct. So what we have is a lot of positive, forward-moving energy. It's a great time for putting projects and plans into action. It's a great time for, it should be very productive. If productivity is your thing, it should be a very productive time. And in general, I would say that you can get a lot done this week. There's a lot of harmonious aspects in the sky with just enough tension to kind of keep things moving. Too much harmony and it's, but not on a waxing moon, not with all the planets direct. It was a good week to get some stuff done. Great week for initiating things. Now, some stuff that's happening towards the weekend that is worth looking at, that are worth looking at. We have Ceres stationing to go direct. No, I take that back. Ceres is stationing to go retrograde on Friday. Now, Ceres, depending upon who you talk to, either is or is not the great Earth Mother. I see that Ceres does correlate to things having to do with the environment, the food supply, and our other earthy kinds of concerns, at the very least. Ceres was part of the Saturn-Pluto conjunction in Capricorn a few years ago. And that was in 2020, in January of 2020. And we know what happened after that. So definitely there's this collective kind of energy associated with Ceres. Ceres is stationing in Libra, which is kind of away from all of the other planets, and perhaps sending in some messages about maintaining balance and some things that we need to do in order to keep ourselves afloat. That's a collective kind of thing, and I think we'll see some news about that Thursday, Friday. It's not necessarily what I would call, it's not necessarily earth-shattering. Although when the Earth Mother stops to retrograde, it is potentially earth-shattering. In some ways, sort of slow our progress, you might think. But you know what else is happening on Friday is that the Sun is squaring Uranus. Now, the Sun in Aquarius, Uranus's home sign, squaring Uranus in Taurus, there is a little potential for conflict there, but it's because of what we call in astrology reception, because the Sun is in Uranus's sign. I don't really think that it's going to be all that tense. It certainly suggests breaking out of the box, trying something new. Now, the Moon is going to be in protective Cancer, and so it doesn't really encourage this. The collective vibe is a little bit more drawn in. I mean, and we're almost at the full moon, so it's not that drawn in, but it's still a little edgy. And then here's the Sun and Uranus, and in a sense, what I would say is that they're trying to push you past that Cancerian conservativeness. They're trying to push you past that sense of, I've got to hold back, I've got to be careful. It's sort of saying, no, go out and explore, try something. I would be very interested to see how it plays out in the collective. I would think that leadership, people in leadership positions, presidents and prime ministers and such, would have a big day, but they often have a big day. So, and perhaps some social media folks will be in the news and things like that. Perhaps, you know what I'm saying? I'm saying maybe that type of thing will happen. But what about in our personal lives? In our personal lives, this is sort of giving a bit of that kind of, I want it to be a new year. I want to go forward. I want to make changes in my life. And again, the planets are pushing us past the Cancerian, but I'm scared. I want to make changes. I want this to be a good year. This is a new year. I'm starting fresh, but I'm scared. That's our concern. And that's the challenge on Friday, except when we're talking about relationships, because Friday, but particularly on Saturday, we have a mishmash of aspects that are really related to relationship, as Pallas Athene, the truth teller asteroid retrograding in Cancer, will square Juno, partnership asteroid Juno, and Venus will trine Pallas Athene and then go on to square Mars, who will be sextiling Juno. We could try to tease that apart and, say what each aspect means. The big aspect in there is Venus square Mars. That's the root aspect there that is going to get our attention. Venus is in Pisces. It's all about love, compassion, the sort of open kind of loving, not so much eros. Venus has got into Pisces, and now it's not such about eros. It's not such about you and me. It's the larger agape, that the love that is more spiritual kind of thing. Square to Mars out in Gemini, where Mars Mars is up for anything in Gemini, especially now that he's going direct. So there's a little bit of a tension there. There's other tension too. I mean, we also have the tension with Pallas Athene square Juno, but there's also harmonious aspects in there. And how do we sort of look at this whole thing? How do we look at Friday night into Saturday and maybe going on into Sunday? How do we look at this in a practical, pragmatic way? And the answer is that, yeah, there are some tensions that could develop around relationships and socializing, but with Pallas Athene there to give the truth, to tell the truth, as it were, then we can communicate our needs relatively well. I think even Mars in Gemini, Mars likes to act more than talk, but in Gemini, you can talk. So the idea is there could be some tensions. There could be a kind of, what are we going to do? What is the plan for the weekend? Plans have to change and all of this. And there could be some tensions that arise around that. If you communicate and say how you really feel about things, then it looks like we should be able to work things out, and you can take advantage of that fun Leo full moon. So we begin the week with some brilliant insights. Well, we ground the brilliant insights. We figure out how to make them work. Very practical energy as the moon waxes through the week, through midweek and all. We get really good stuff going on, very productive, very forward-moving kind of energy. We get to Friday. There's a little tension, but that Sun-Uranus should really just help us to push a little bit farther, forward, farther, whichever way. I almost made up my own word there, further. But maybe that's my Uranus-Mercury moment. Maybe I'm just making up new words. Neologisms, they're called. And then as we get to the weekend, a little bit of tension, but generally speaking, if you talk it out, express yourself, it should just be a fun weekend. Pretty good week, all in all. And I'll tell you about next week when we come back next time, and that's going to be a good week too. But on Wednesday, we're going to have the February forecast out, and I'm going to start doing midweek forecasts. Midweek forecasts will be, they're not going to be forecasts. They're going to be midweek videos that are going to be about aspects of astrology, some things that are going on, like the February forecast, but also some sort of general kinds of things. They're going to be interesting. They're going to be shorter. And because they're going to be shorter, if you want to see them, you should subscribe, because they probably won't come up on your feed that much if you're not subscribed, and get the notifications, hit the little bell and stuff like that. Of course, if you're only interested in the forecasts, then you should still subscribe, and they will show up, and you just don't watch them because, you've got choices.